It's time for some Gundam history. Near the end of the 1-year war, a large amount of new variants of older Zeon suits could be seen. These designs were part of the United Maintenance Plan, an attempt by Zeon to utilize older designs with newer technology in order to reinforce their dwindling mobile suit squadrons. In reality, this was a retcon designed to explain why there were new mobile suit designs seen in the OVA series Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket. While this retcon provided new designs for model kits and new units for various video games, it also made sense as a strategy to keep the Zeon forces strong enough to hold the line near the end of the 1-year war. If they had had more time, or if the United Maintenance Plan had been started earlier during the 1-year war, it could have very much changed the Zeon war machine. Unfortunately, it came too little, too late. Today we are looking at the United Maintenance Plan, the mobile suits it produced, the story for why they exist, and most importantly, how it all comes together in the Universal Century. Get ready, because class is in session. As the 1-year war was coming to an end, Zeon found themselves overwhelmed by enemy numbers and low on supplies. There was very little consistency in the parts and equipment used on their various mobile suits. Thus, the Zeon leadership looked for a way to deal with their production issues, to put more units on the field to deal with the onslaught of Federation forces. The person put in charge of this was M'Quve, a soldier who is best known for getting promotions due to being a toady. However, he also tinkered with mobile suit designs, developing the Gyan and creating the very stealthy Ifrit Nacht. His plan was to simplify production and to develop interchangeable parts and equipment that would make repairs and production of mobile suits significantly easier to do. Despite his lack of leadership skills and combat tactics, M'Quve was a very skilled mobile suit designer. Several units were produced due to the United Maintenance Plan to help reinforce the Zeon fleet before the end of the war. The units are designed to be more specialized than previous versions. The units had interchangeable parts so that the maintenance crew would be able to save space since there was no longer a need for parts for individual units. In addition to that, many of the units could share weaponry, with the exception of beam weapons, which could only be used by certain units. However, the equipment for the units, based on these designs, were not compatible with the older units. This could lead to problems because the crew of a ship or base would need to have supplies for both the United Maintenance Plan units and the original units that they had at the time. Instead of narrowing down the parts and equipment needed to maintain their suits, it now became double the amount of parts and equipment needed to maintain the suits. The idea for the plan was a good one. If they had only one set of parts for all units in the squadron, it would streamline repairs. Shared weapons also allow for mobile suit teams to work better due to the coordinated weaponry available. Building units, training pilots, and doing repairs would all be significantly more streamlined, but with such a short amount of time left during the war, these kinds of things never had the chance to work out. If the plan had been implemented prior to the war or earlier in the war, it would have allowed Zeon to utilize their resources more efficiently during the war, and would have allowed Zeon to prolong the war and possibly even win the war. The only thing that did work out for Zeon was that the United Maintenance Plan units were easier to repair and use in the post-war period. Many members of the Zeon Remnant forces used these units to cause trouble for the Federation for years until the Titans cut down their numbers. The usage of M'Quve as the focal point for this plan to explain why new mobile suit designs existed near the end of the 1-year war worked out pretty well. It felt in character for M'Quve to have done these designs, and it gives a little bit more for his character to have done during the course of the war. More than that, it did provide us with some cool model kits and some fun units to utilize in various video games. Speaking of which, let's now take a look at those units and what made them so special. First, we have the MS-09F Zaku 2 Kai. This was a faster and lighter version of the older Zaku model. In addition to that, it had better armor and an added grenade rack, providing it with more explosive power. Its one major drawback was its low operational time. This was due to the amount of energy required to keep the Zaku 2 Kai moving at its proper top speeds. Additionally, there is an alternate head design for colony guards, referred to either as the B-type helmet or the Fritz helmet. While the Zaku 2 Kai was being released to various squadrons, an upgrade kit for the Zaku 2F was also released, allowing them to upgrade those older units into the Zaku 2F2, which lacked some of the additional features of the Zaku 2 Kai, but allowed older units to still be functional near the end of the war. However, the F2 is not part of the United Maintenance Plan. It is its own production development. Next, we have the MS-09F Dom Funf, and Funf is 5 in German. This was an improved version of the older Dom model, with its main feature being a modular system allowing it to be modified for situations. Not many standard Dom Funfs were actually put into combat. Most of the time you will only see the modified versions. The most common variation you will find is the MS-09F Trop Dom Tropen. It uses technology developed with the MS-09D Dom Tropical Test Type to improve its armor, sand filters, cooling systems, and hover jets. The Dom Tropen was designed to deal with hot and humid climates and to provide it with all the mobility and firepower that a Dom is known for. It has a very large variety of armaments, from machine guns to bazookas to even some beam weaponry that could be utilized. However, very few were actually produced during the war, and most of the Dom Tropens are seen in the post-war time period, taking older Fs and adding the modifications to allow them to endure in harsher climates where other mobile suits might struggle. In the post-war period, we also saw the MS-09F BR Dom Barrage. This was a heavy artillery variant of the Dom with extra armor, missiles, and even a Gatling cannon. These were incredibly powerful units designed to wipe out enemy armor and utilized a variety of weaponry to make them quite the threat. There are two more designs that are probably non-canonical, but are worth at least mentioning here. The MS-09F Dom Nix, which has no legs and is designed for long-range firepower, and the MS-09F GB Dom Biel, whose only weapon is a giant axe. These were supposed to be used as tandem units, one providing long-range support while one gets up close and hacks things apart with a giant axe. They have appeared in some games and things like that, but as far as I know, these were cancelled designs within the actual Universal Century timeline. For the Space Forces, there was the MS-09R2, which has two different versions, the prototype and the standard. First, we're going to talk about the prototype Dom Zwei. This unit does have similar performance to the standard Dom Zwei, but it's a little bit different as it's based off of the design of the Dom Tropen. There is very little that makes the prototype Dom Zwei important to the overall storyline of the Universal Century. It should be noted that Anavel Gatto did pilot one of these, which did help solidify his title as Nightmare of Solomon. However, the true version of the Dom Zwei is the MS-09R2. The Dom Zwei was built from the ground up as a completely bespoke unit. It had improved thrusters and an enhanced generator comparatively to the standard Dom and even to the prototype. It also had propellant tanks for increased operation time. This was very important, especially as a space unit. In addition to that, its weapon systems and cockpit were redesigned based on the design of the Gelgoog cockpit and weapon systems, making this thing have a lot of the capabilities of a Gelgoog while still using the body of a Dom. Due to these design enhancements, the Dom Zwei is capable of working on land, in colonies, and of course, in space, making it one of the most versatile units of the United Maintenance Plan. The MS-14JG Gelgoog Jager is a marked improvement above the standard Gelgoog. Not only does it have an improved generator, allowing it to use beam weaponry more consistently, it also had improved targeting software to ensure this unit could function very well whether it was firing during rapid movement or sniping enemy units. It had faster thrusters with propellant tanks to make up for any kind of loss of operation time. In addition to that, its improved sensors and communication gear made it very useful as both a scout and as a command unit. The most notable thing about the Gelgoog Jager is the fact that it had the beam machine gun, which had a rapid-fire mode for mid and close-range combat, and a single-shot mode designed for sniping. This unit was incredibly versatile and worked very well under almost any circumstances in the Space War. It had a partner unit in the form of the MS-15KG, the Gyan Krieger. Krieger meaning warrior in German. This was an improved version of the original Gyan, with an improved generator, improved thrusters. The beam saber was replaced with beam lance, allowing it to have longer reach and be utilized as a stabbing weapon while moving at high speeds. The missile shield was also upgraded with an improved firepower and weaponry. The one key point about this unit that should be noted is that very few, if any, have ever been seen on screen, and therefore it might be a non-canonical unit, or at the very least, an unproduced unit. One of the most memorable United Maintenance Plan units is the MS-18E Kampfer. For those who care, the E stands for Einhauen, meaning one strike. This was meant to be a quick strike unit that would deal heavy damage and leave before a battle could truly break out. This was due to a few unique parts of the unit. First off, it had lighter armor, making it not particularly useful for prolonged firefights, and it had an enhanced engine that could provide it with extreme speed at a low operation time. This is a hit-and-run unit, and its large weaponry assortment allowed it to be ready for almost any situation. The Kampfer could utilize assault rifles, shotguns, giant bazookas, even chain mines in order to deal damage to enemies as quickly as possible. The one thing it didn't have access to was beam weaponry. However, a beam-capable Kampfer was produced post-war. The MS-18F Kampfer Type F was made at Access after the war, equipped with beam weaponry, and used to defend Access in the interwar period. While most people are familiar with the Kampfer from War in the Pocket, it should be noted that in the Operation Silver Lance storyline from the Gundam Legacy manga, a Kampfer is also used as the lead unit. I talk more about that in my first Gundam history video on the story of the Thoroughbred. Link in the description. While it seems to have a few weaknesses due to its low operational time, its performance was comparable with the RX-78 and RX-79 series of Gundams. On the water side of things, we do have two units that were produced as part of the United Maintenance Plan. The first is the MSM-03C Gelgoog. This was the improved version of the original MSM-03 GOG to deal with all the failings that unit had. It was a very small and cost-effective unit. In addition to that, it had retractable arms and an optional booster pack, giving it more mobility and speed. It also had the ability to swap up some of the weaponry when necessary, thus allowing it to be a bit more unique in terms of how it could be used. The ability to swap weaponry along with the improved generator and movement abilities of this unit made it a very effective aquatic unit near the end of the war. The other aquatic unit is the MSM-07E Zaku E, and this time the E is for experimental. This was an attempt at improving the old Zaku model. It contained rapid-fire beams and an improved missile launcher as well. It had better underwater mobility in addition to enhanced land movement, making this unit very effective in both water and on the ground. Like the Gelgoog, it also had retractable claws and an improved generator. While neither of these aquatic units would really be able to turn the tide of the war, see what I did there? They are a marked improvement above the older Marine units, which really never seemed to be much of a threat, unless your mobile suit happened to go underwater. Overall, the United Maintenance Plan provides us with some really cool looking units, some interesting upgrades, and definitely helps fill out the roster of Zeon mobile suits in the 1-year war. The retcon, thankfully, makes sense within the universe, primarily because it allows for new units with a reason why they weren't mass-produced at the numbers you might expect. After all, it's near the end of the war, and even though the units were enhanced in a lot of ways, they still required manufacturing and distribution, both of which were not easy for Zeon to do by the end of the war. Overall, I like several of the units of the United Maintenance Plan, and I think there's a lot of people who would find some of their favorite Zeon units fall within these categories. Let me know which United Maintenance Plan unit is your favorite in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and please look forward to the next Gundam history, which will be on the failings of the Jim Cold Districts type. Until next time, thank you for watching, class dismissed, and I'll see you at the tavern.